Awesome. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. My name is Peter. I work in the customer support team here at Owner. I may have had the pleasure of actually, answering some of your support calls and or emails. And basically, I'll be taking you through the training today. If I get my slides up, perfect. Today's training essentially is going to be a little bit different to the ones that we've done in the past. So, three really quick things. I just want to get out of the way before we start. Number one is that these trainings are recorded. Okay, so we will have them available in the near future in a library format, and we're actually updating how we're going to be providing the visual component to our trainings. We're very excited about it, and I think you guys will be too. Where we take these trainings, break them up into little segments, and we'll push them through onto our tutorial guides. You may have already noticed that our tutorial guides have had a nice little visual upgrade as well. So we are constantly working on this kind of stuff. The second thing I want to get out of the way with is I do apologize. I am a little bit sick today, like in terms of I have a bit of a cold. So I apologize. You guys won't be able to hear my super sexy voice, but I will try my best to get through this and make sure that the information is nice and clear and you can easily understand. Okay. Today, what we're going to be doing is a little bit different, as I said, to our normal trainings. We're not going to be running from top to bottom like we did in previous trainings. If that's what you're after, the best thing to do is jump on our Owner Help Center and go through our recorded training section because you'll be able to see that there. This is more an actual troubleshooting training. So we know how to generate our invoices. We know how to look at our family accounts. So we don't need to know that. What we need to know is when things don't go the way we want to, okay? So the kind of things that we're going to be covering in this training is things like understanding the carryover balance, navigating between account screens. So some people aren't aware, but you can actually do multiple tabs and windows, okay? When we don't have CCS on our accounts, what do? When we're debiting our families, do we debit, how do we debit all of them? How do we just debit individual families? Viewing and understanding the invoices. When we have rejections from a payment point of things, the difference between credit card and direct debits. Just give me a sec. So the next thing is changes that occur after we've generated invoices. How do we take care of those? When we delete invoices, how can we delete them? What about if we want to bulk delete? If we want to filter our invoices, what type of tools can we use? Adding extra charges to our accounts, and also things like filtering using group tags. Okay, so they're the kind of things that we'll be going through today. The way we'll structure this training essentially is feel free to ask any questions you have along the way. Okay, basically on these kind of topics, more than happy to answer them. But there will be a questions section at the end, all right, where you can ask any questions you would like on the topics that we're discussing. Okay, awesome. So everyone said they can clearly see my screen, but anyone that may or may not be familiar with it, this is the portal, what we call the back end. I do also have the simulator open somewhere on this computer here, but we're not going to really use it as much in this training. But if I do need to refer to it, I will let you know. And that's basically like what an educator sees or what a parent sees. Okay, but awesome. So let's get into it, okay, guys. So what we're going to do is basically just go through invoices. I'm just going to follow basically these sort of points, okay? So one really important thing to note about Owner is you can actually have one instance of Owner open, so you can be logged in as one in one account at one particular time. But you can open any of these links in new tabs or windows. Okay, this becomes important when you might do a new window. Okay, you can put one on one side of the screen and then like minimize it, not minimize it, like make it smaller, and one on the other side of the screen, so you can see two different bits of information. This becomes important in a troubleshooting capacity because sometimes you need to see it more than one thing, okay? Especially when we get to the no CCS, you'll see what I'm talking about. But you might need to see the statements and the invoices and the, entitlements, for example, okay? So they're little things that you can do, all right? So family accounts, transactions, and invoices might be things that you might want to have parallel to each other, so you can open them all up in a new tab, all right? Anything in Owner which has that little you see my mouse right now is like a big black pointer, and when I hover it over, it goes into that hand. Anything that turns into a hand is actually a link. So we have little links throughout the whole system, just hidden in little places that you can actually click and take you to certain places. Hovering over a link will tell you exactly what it will take you. Sometimes it's just more so navigation, whereabouts, and knowing about it. So all of those little things can be opened up in new tabs. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to let everyone know in case you didn't know that. And just to give you an example how that becomes important, I've got this invoice here for Carter with all these amounts, these carryover balances and whatnot. How do I actually then decipher what, just give me a second, I'm going to make this a bit smaller. There we go. Okay, sorry, the Zoom stuff was on the side, so. Perfect. So yeah, so how can I decipher what all these numbers are? I don't remember what the transaction looks like. Can I quickly go there? So, a few things to note off the actual invoices screen itself. Clicking on the account name will take you to the account page. And once again, you can open that in a new tab. Clicking on this reference column will actually open up the family transaction. So you can see how easy it is to switch between one or the other. Okay. Like I said before, you can even drag things into different windows to see parallel at the same time, side by side, in front, above or below each other, however you guys want to work. See multiple tabs. Okay, so you can do all that from different screens. If you don't know where all these little quick links are, the ones that I'm sort of clicking around now, obviously we play around with the system all day, so we know where they are. You can always go by the left-hand menus, open up family transactions, open up accounts, find the account you're looking for, etc. Okay, so that's one thing I wanted to touch base on because it does help with troubleshooting, and we do use it a lot here in the support center. And so I wanted to get that out of the way. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about, and we do get these questions quite a bit, is invoices and carryover balances. What are they? How do they work? Why do they appear? Okay. Essentially, owner is currently using what we call a rolling invoice system. What that means is that our invoices roll over based off what happened in the past. So if there's a balance that's sitting in the past, whether it's a positive balance so the parents overpaid or a negative balance so the family still owes money, that balance will get rolled over onto the latest invoice. And it just means that the parent has to only look at one invoice rather than keeping tabs of 6 different open invoices. Okay. It just makes it easier for them to see exactly how much money is owing at a particular point in time. Now, what that may do is it may cause a carryover balance. So as you can see here, I've got this account here, Goethe. They owe me $177, okay? Now, on the invoices screen, we've broken it down into nice little columns to see a summary of every invoice. Obviously, you can open up your invoices by clicking the balance or the little printer button, and that opens up that individual invoice as so. And then basically, that's the information in terms of the carryover that's getting pulled through, okay? Now, on this invoice, they owe me $177. If they don't pay that by the time I generate my new invoice, what will happen is this amount here will actually carry over, and what we call the carryover amount. And then they'll obviously have the new amount that's due, and then it will be added to the carryover, which will give you a final total. So as an example, let's say I generate an invoice in which the family owes me a gap amount of $100. Their final invoice will show 277 because it's the 177 carryover plus the $100 that they owe for that particular invoice. And so their balance is 277. And when it comes to billing them, either individually or in a group, they will be billed that total amount. Okay. That just means that the parents only ever have to focus on their latest invoice. And just to show you what I mean by that, I might not be able to get an invoice up on the family for this purpose. I hope I can, but maybe not. Oh, I can. Perfect. So when a family is looking at their app, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, I'm logged in as a parent here on the right-hand side. I don't think I need this one, so I'll minimize it for now. So we're logged in as a parent here on this iPhone, and basically the parent will just log onto the left-hand side, assuming they're properly linked to an account and whatnot. They'll have access to this statements and invoices section. And what this means is they can see any invoices and statements, as well as fill out DDR forms and stuff like that from this section right here. Okay. Now, what that means is in terms of like the latest invoice and the rolling over method, they'll be able to see that clearly at the top. So in my example, before my fictitious example, I have 277 outstanding. I'll be able to see that here. When the parent clicks this view button, they'll be able to clearly see how that payment was broken down. Up here in the carryover, they'll see the $177 amount. And further down on the actual session summary, they'll be able to see that their gap for that period, here, the total fee is what did I say before? $100, right? So the total due for the invoice is the 177 plus the 100, which is 277. Okay, and they can clearly see that on this statement. They can also see everything on the actual. Oops, sorry. They can also see everything on the actual. Oh, my bad. So I meant they can clearly see that on their invoice. They can also see their statement a little bit further down, and they have options to filter their statement here as well. So they can see different information, different periods of time. And based on that filter, they'll be able to see all the line by line actions that happen to get to those amounts. Okay. They'll be able to see attendances, any extra charges you've added, any CCS payments that have come in, as well as any payments that they have made. And then basically you've got debits, which add money to the balance owing, and then credits, which reduce the balance, right? If you reduce past zero, then you have a credit on your account, which means you've overpaid, and you use that credit on your next invoice, essentially. Now, other ways that carryover balances can occur as well is estimating in CCS. Now, we all know how volatile, I guess, CCS can be in terms of the calculations, in terms of how quickly things can change. And in a few seconds, we'll go through what happens when we don't have CCS, or what happens when we see a reduced amount of CCS. How can we troubleshoot to find out why that occurred? But there's many different things that can happen. Parents can dispute enrollments. We might forget to submit sessions. You name it, parents might get paid the CCS. There's so many different things, and we'll go through some of those scenarios in a second. But essentially what that means is, and one of the big ones is entitlements can change just out of the blue. So the invoice amounts that we've been previously expecting to get, maybe the system hasn't quite, maybe the system, we generated the invoices first, then the entitlements changed. So in reality, we received less CCS than what we were invoiced. So what happens is, in that case, we've actually overclaimed the CCS and underclaimed the gap. So in that case, the family hasn't paid us enough gap. So what happens is, on their next invoice, they have a carryover amount. And in this particular example, they will owe us a little bit of money to offset that carryover. In a different instance, they might increase their percentages and hours. So they might actually overpay CCS. So they might have a credit applied to their account. So these are little things that happen, okay? Now, there's no clear-cut way of saying it's always going to happen this way, but just a little sort of way to sort of help you sort of try and troubleshoot a carryover balance is open up the family transaction. Okay, the invoices are always derived by the balances of family transactions. Okay, so we're always pulling these numbers here depending on when you're generating your invoices. Okay, so if I generate an invoice, let's say for example the 1st of February, it's going to look at the statement for the balance at the 1st of February, pull that through, pull that through as a carryover balance, and then apply any sort of fees, CCS estimates or CCS actuals, etc., to that account, so we can work out what the gap is, and then it'll give you the total. Okay. Now, this might not be. Let me just see if who was that? That was Omar. Give me a sec. Oh, one cool thing, even while right now, so we have some test accounts here, and I've forgotten. I know the child's name, but I've forgotten the account details. Okay. One cool thing about the family account screen came out of the blue is you can actually search in this filter a parent's name, a child's name, or an account name. So I can search at this level, I can search at this level, and I can search at this level for a particular account. Okay. So in my particular case, I know the child was Omar, who has that open invoice that we were talking about before. So I can open that up by searching Omar. That's still not that great. Just give me a second. I'm just trying to find if we have a good account that I can sort of work off, but it doesn't look like there is. What I want to show you is basically if you're using the debiting system, like through billing through the merchant, you can come onto your invoices and clearly see old invoices here and open them up, okay? And it will show you the exact CCS amounts. This is a different type of invoice, but you know what your invoices generally look like, and they have the CCS amounts and all that for past invoices. So you can compare what was invoiced to what actually occurred, okay, and see any discrepancies that would happen there. Other times that there's carryover balances where fees change. Now, fees might change because you've actually changed the fee in terms of the center and the center level. Everyone's fees have gone up, or that particular child might have had a different fee for a particular a particular session because you've given them some type of discount for whatever reason. So little things like this can also cause carryover balances depending on when the changes were made and when we actually invoice the families. Okay, so keep in mind these kind of little things and use both the invoices and the statements to try and troubleshoot what we did invoice, what we've actually billed the families for, and what actually occurred. Okay, and then able to fix that up. Now, I will get to it in a second, but you can delete invoices as well. So if an invoice hasn't been taken, you've realized there's some discrepancy, something's not adding up, or for example, we invoiced we created the invoice first, then some change happened. We can actually go and delete that invoice, regenerate it, and it'll pick up all those changes as well. You know, picked up extra bookings, deleted bookings, CCS change entitlements and whatnot. The actual CCS hours or percentages change. So all of that can affect carryover balances. Does anyone have any questions on that part so far? Because it is something we get asked a lot. Pardon me. This just scrolls by itself. Yeah, so it is something we get asked a lot. So I just wanted to make sure that if anyone has any questions on carryover balances, please do ask them now because I'd be more than happy to answer them. Oh, sorry. For anyone that's joined late, my name's Peter. First of all, I work in the support team here to take you through the troubleshooting, which you probably already know. The way we're running these trainings is basically everyone's muted, and we'll use the chat box to sort of communicate any questions. There will be questions at the end as well if you want to ask bulk amount of questions or any questions throughout the whole webinar. But I'm more than happy to take questions as we go as well. Okay, so how do you go to multiple tabs? Very easy. Oh, and I didn't actually explain that very well. Right click, open link in new tab. Okay, open link in new window if you want it in a different window as well. Okay, so anything that's a link, and you'll see it because you see how the cursor changes from the pointer to the hand. Yep, and then here hand as well, hand as well. There's so many different things that owner has links on. You hover over like a little icon. Many times it's a link. Okay, if you don't know what it is, it'll tell you. Sometimes it doesn't tell you. You just have to click it and find out where it goes. But yeah, so for example, a really cool thing, and we'll get to it soon, is from the actual, what's this called? The family transactions, sorry. You can actually go to attendances for the child for that particular period. So I can quickly go to the March 8 to March 14 attendances just by this little quick link here. Okay. For CCS payments as well, there's a little quick link that takes you to the CCS subsidy. These little things really help with navigation, only because it helps time-wise, you know. One thing to note, and I want to make this abundantly clear, you don't need to use multiple tabs to get the job done. I just think it's a little bit easier because if I'm on the account screen and I click here, then I lose the account screen, so I have to go back. Okay, so you can do that if you prefer, not a problem. And another thing, you don't have to use the quick links. Okay, you might not know where they are, what they do. You can always go by the safe way. On the left-hand menu, everything's very clearly labeled. So if you want a statement, you just go to family transactions, right? You just find the statement you want and run the statement. Okay, I'm not saying don't do it that way. If you're more comfortable doing it that way, that's fine. I just want to give people another option which they may prefer. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Own is one of the systems where you can navigate to places 8 different ways. Find the way that you like. Find the way that works best for you. As long as you achieve your outcome, that's the most important. Okay. Also, I'm just going to close some of these tabs now. That's the good thing about tabs as well. You can close them and still stay where you were, right? So let's say I'm troubleshooting my invoices. I've just finished with Carter. Everything's good. I can now move on to Anthony. This page is still here. Okay, awesome. All right, let's get into the notice CCS because this is a very big one. Actually, you know what? Let's skip that for 1 second just to talk about debiting. So debit, I don't know why it does that. Sorry, guys. Debiting families. So anyone who's using merchant facility, to debit your families, it's very easy. You can just come to your invoices page, okay? And depending how you debit, if you use tags, we'll get to that in a second, a little bit later on in the training. But if you're not using tags and you've got all your families on the same day you're debiting them, just come up here to the debit all outstanding invoices button and just debit your families, okay? If you're ever shy on what a button does, okay, feel free to hover over it. So am I on it? Yeah. If you hover over it for a few seconds, you'll see exactly what it does. So it debits all outstanding invoices and then in brackets, except paused accounts. Okay, so you can pause accounts in owner through family accounts. Okay, so really quickly to dissect, go to family accounts, click on a family and pause them. Okay, now when a family is paused, what will happen is you'll see a big red pause on that account. You can also filter by, apologies, I don't have the latest. You can also now filter by paused accounts. You'll be able to see it here. Okay, so what that means is a paused account, as we saw before, wrong place here. A paused account will get skipped when we debit all outstanding invoices. So when you might want to use that is you might have a family that can't pay on that particular day you're invoicing, but they'll pay 2 days later. They've confirmed that their pay is delayed for whatever reason. So you pause them, you debit all outstanding invoices, it'll bill every single other person, and then you'll come at a later stage and debit now. Okay. Once again, hover over debit now to see how it works. It will debit this account only. Okay. So in this case, Anthony account only, right? And if you look at the brackets, this will also debit a paused account. So when you debit now, it also debits paused accounts. These are important things to know, so you know exactly when to click which button and the criteria that that button then, I guess, has, all right? Especially when billing families. So I just wanted to quickly touch those because there are two things that do get mixed up sometimes. Awesome. Now, viewing and understanding invoices. I think I kind of touched that before, viewing and understanding invoices. If anyone's not clear on this, let me know. My understanding is because we're troubleshooting, we should all know how to view them and understand them. But if you have any questions, let me know. I can go back to that. And let's just quickly go to this. Again, for people using our merchant. Now, one thing to note about the merchant and the fees they charge is they only charge a rejection fee for direct debits, okay? When we'll be able to schedule debits in advance. Lighthouse. So when we'll be able to schedule debits in advance is when our automation comes. Our automation is something we're building at the moment, and you will see even on the back end how many things have changed between, let's say, for example, December to now. All these little things that have happened in the background, things that you don't have to do anymore, like balance your accounts or refresh your attendances or whatever. This is the old one. So from when this was, which was a few weeks ago, to now, you don't even need to do this step anymore, right? So we've been working all these little steps in the background. Unfortunately, all these little steps need to be taken care of first before we go to automation, as well as before we go to statements. Okay, so these are little things that we're working on. Unfortunately, for the question, I can't give ETAs only because at owner, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We'd rather underdeliver, overpromise. So what I'll say is, and you have seen it in our system, we do keep our word when we tell you changes are coming. They do come. You can see all these other features that are being built in the background, constantly updating the platform, I guess. These are things that are still getting done. Just because we're building other features doesn't mean we're not doing these. It just means that there's more nitty gritty part of things when it comes to development. So we're just, focusing on each step as it comes. But it is coming, guys. So stay tuned for it. And once it's out, we will update people as well. And of course, you will know because when you go into the system, it would have changed. Okay. So that is stuff that is coming. Awesome. Back to the rejection. So Fat Zebra have rejection fees for direct debits, but not credit cards. Okay. So what that means is if a status is rejected, it means it's a direct debit payment. Okay. Any credit card which actually rejects will still stay as open. Okay. So to troubleshoot that one, if you do have Fat Zebra, let us know, get an authorized person from your organization to send an email to our support team, and we can actually create a Fat Zebra account for you so you can see all your payments as well. Okay. And in that Fat Zebra portal, you'll be able to see rejected credit cards and reasons why, insufficient funds, refer to card issuer, etc. Okay. So I just wanted to touch base on that. Another thing I want to touch base on is you can also filter by different statuses. Keeping in mind, like I said, a rejected status will be focusing on direct debits, more so than credit cards. And majority of the time, families are paying by direct debits anyway. So we're focusing on the minority when we're talking about credit cards, but it is something obviously you guys are asking us. So I just wanted to address that point as well. Log on to Fat Zebra if you have access. If you don't, email us or get someone of authority to email us to create access for someone, and you guys can log on and see that as well. Awesome. Let's get to the fun stuff. Okay. No CCS, right? The amount of times that we hear no CCS is outstanding. Okay. Now, the reason that is because every situation is so different. Okay. Is something that touch base on today's struggle, please? Diana, maybe reconciliation call up on. It is something that I'm thinking of doing. And guys, really quickly off topic because the question was off topic. I just want to let you guys know if there's topics that you guys would like us to cover, let us know because we're going to be doing these weekly regardless, and it would be good to hear feedback on what you would like to know next. Okay, so we're thinking maybe a CCS troubleshooting would be next because we're doing accounts now. We'll do CCS as well, and then maybe down the track, I'm thinking maybe do like a reporting one, different reports that you can run in Owner. So a reconciliation might be really good for that. If you need it before the training comes, just give us a call. We'll be able to answer it. Awesome. Good question, Diana, though. I like the way you're thinking. Okay. And yeah, don't be scared to give us feedback, guys. We thrive off feedback. And on the notion of feedback, we even have a whole section here, bugs and feature requests, where we want to know your feedback. We want to know what's working and what's not working, and what would you like to see in the system. Keeping in mind with a feature, it is a request, it's not guaranteed, but we do our best to try and implement it if it's something we think will better the platform. And you would have seen so many features, like the new rostering feature, right? Off topic, back on topic. No CCS. Okay, I've created this little sort of diagram to try and help understand this problem, but keeping in mind that there's so many different variables that can affect why CCS hasn't been paid, and I'm going to do my best to try and answer the common ones, right? But even in this tutorial, I might still miss some, only because they're so unique to their specific situation. So just what I'm trying to say is it's not clear cut on one thing. You might need to open up 5 different reports to find out. You might need to see if the sessions were submitted, if the entitlements are there, if enrollment status. Let's go through the chain. Actually, I've created what I call the CCS chain. Now, each step is determined on the predecessors. Okay, so for example, I can't get entitlements if I don't have a completed enrollment status. Okay, I can't submit sessions if I don't have an enrollment ID. Payments won't load, like CCS payments won't load onto our reports, onto our statements, or sorry, this way. Yeah, CCS invoices. So the CCS won't appear on the statements and invoices if any of these things prior haven't like happened. Okay, so I'll go through them with you, and we'll go through like this little sort of guide, right? And I'll show you like if this doesn't occur, what does that mean, right? And I have a few little screenshots where I've blacked out some confidential information, so we can sort of go through that as well. And I think that's here. Let me just check that they're working. Yeah, cool, awesome. All right, if I do, I can just do this. Awesome. Just checking something. Okay, cool. So let's start from the beginning, right? Now, some of this might be redundant and you might already know it, but it is important. Trust me, guys, because the amount of times that something like stuffs up here without us even knowing, which affects down here, sorry, is outstanding. So let's go through the chain. First thing is we need to create the enrollment ID. So we need to make sure that the child has been submitted and they have an enrollment ID on their profile, okay? This might sound like baby steps, but it is important. Sometimes, and for whatever reason, you create an enrollment ID, but for whatever reason, that enrollment ID doesn't filter through the child's profile. So every time you submit your sessions, they're not actually getting submitted. So that could be a troubleshooting step, right? So double check, does the child have an enrollment ID? Cool, yes, let's go. Now, what status is the enrollment in? Okay, so by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, enrollment IDs you can check by weekly attendance fee screen. We have a filter here, which is children without enrollment IDs, and you can clearly see a whole list of anyone that doesn't have it. Or you can run all children, and again, it won't work. All children, and you'll see in a big gray box any child that doesn't have an enrollment ID. Did I put it here? Let me see something. Yeah, perfect. All right, so if you can see this like that, how do you... Sorry, I'm on a Mac and I'm not proficient in Mac. See how it says no enrollment ID? So off the weekly attendance fee screen, you can run a report and it'll clearly show you children that don't have enrollment IDs. Okay. On that note as well, I might not have the latest, but you guys will. Under your CCS status here, so when you go to view all children, you have a column called CCS status. It will clearly show you if a child has an enrollment ID, and it will appear with a text field like this, which you can also click through and see that child's specific enrollment status and whatnot, as well as it will have a confirmation message, either confirmed or not confirmed, so you know what status they're in. Confirmed just means completed. Not confirmed means any other status, ceased, pending confirmation, pending eligibility, disputed, you name it. Anything that's not confirmed, all right? So that's important. Next thing is the statuses, okay? So especially when you're starting off and you just created a new enrollment ID, there might be pending confirmation. What that means is we still won't have any entitlements. The parent still needs to go into MyGov and confirm it. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is pending eligibility. What that means is you've done everything correctly. You've created an enrollment ID for this child, but the parent is not eligible for whatever reason. Could be the wrong carer and guardian. They need to switch it over. Could be they haven't completed some paperwork. So they need to actually update that. Again, that's going to stop us from getting CCS because it's not confirmed. My favorite, well, my least favorite, right? But my favorite one to troubleshoot because it just comes out of the blue is disputed. So parents can actually dispute their enrollment at any given time by logging onto their MyGov and clicking a dispute button, which will stop the whole process of CCS coming in. Okay. Anytime you have a disputed enrollment, um, try and get your parents to understand not to dispute them and to talk to the center because that will obviously affect them with not getting CCS and getting charged full fees and whatnot. But if it does happen, all you need to do is just update your enrollment. Make sure that the information the parents disputing, so maybe they don't like the session of care or the fee or the days or whatever, make sure that's all been updated in owner first and then update the enrollment, okay? But they're little things up here where, for example, if I put my X here, we might have been like traveling along for many, many weeks getting CCS, no problem. And then one week we decide, oh, there's no CCS on the account. Why is it not working? I've tried all these steps here. I've looked at this, I've looked at that, I've looked at that, but it's still not working. Turns out the enrollment's disputed. Okay. So you can always go back and check. That's why I've created this sort of like diagram to sort of help. Okay. And that's why every situation is so unique. Now, to check a status, just go to View All Children and find the child's name. Click this little button here, or click on the child's profile and click CCS enrollment status. Okay. Any of those quick links, by the way, is taking you to the CCS tab, Enrollment Details. So this is like the CCS database. You have access to all your enrollments and you can change them based to confirmed or all or whatever. Search children's names up, run reports, enrollment IDs, CRNs, and all that. Anytime you click a quick link like a CCS enrollment status check, it's filtering by that child's CRN only. Okay. Pardon me. Awesome. Moving on. Entitlements. And this is a fun one all the time. So entitlements change, right? Um, it just happens. I don't know why all the time. It's more like a CCS reasoning on why they've changed, but they do. So you can check this under the CCS entitlements section. Okay. On entitlements, we have more than just changes. We have percentages. Does the family have a percentage? Okay. One thing that we get asked quite a bit of times, and it's that some people aren't aware of, is if your percentage or your hours is zero, the total CCS will always be zero. Okay. That's very important. Another thing to note is caps. Okay. Have like what I call exhaustion. Have families exhausted their hours? Because if they have, they'll get less CCS the second week. Have they exhausted the daily cap? The daily cap basically is, pardon me, daily cap is the allowable amount per hour that CCS will pay for a school-aged child. Sorry, for a non-school-aged child, they will pay $12.20 at the current time. For a school-aged child, they'll pay a total of $10.67. That's per hour for each like hour they attend the care. Right now, if the child attends more hours or at a higher rate or whatever, right? When you divide the amount of hours they're attending per day divided by the fee, so the fee divided by the hours, you might go over that cap. So CCS will only pay up until that cap. And then you take into consideration their percentages. And then you can take into consideration also their withholding, right? So that obviously affects things. Another thing as well is absences. If the child goes over their absences, that also affects everything. Okay. So under the CCS entitlements, you'll be able to see all that information. And just to show what it looks like, here. Perfect. What you'll be able to see is you can run a few things. Firstly, latest entitlement changes. So down here, I should have taken a screenshot of that. Sorry, guys, I didn't take a screenshot of that. I didn't think of it. Down here, you just got to play imaginary now. Imagine a big table. You'll have every child's name on the left-hand side, as well as what their previous hours, percentage, and annual cap, if they've reached the annual cap limit, right? Each column here, and that's all the previous. And on the right-hand side, you'll have all the new. So their new CCS percentage, their new hours, and if they've reached the cap, as well as on the right hand side when the date change took effect. So what that means is you might have Johnny at 50%, 100 hours, and then they haven't reached their cap. And then what happens is they increase the percentage. So from 50%, they go to 85%. Owner will show this to you here, and there'll be a little green text. So green text means increase, and there'll be a green arrow pointing up. And red text means decrease, and there'll be a down arrow pointing down. Okay. So basically what that means is you can easily see the changes that have been made. One thing to note on this is on the right-hand side, it shows you when the change took effect. However, CCS can backdate as well. So you might need to run this filter at the top to see Johnny, for example, see when the change took effect, see what happened the week before, see what happened the week before that, to see if any other weeks were also affected. Because if we've received more CCS than we should have, there might be a retraction of CCS at a later stage. Okay, so that's important to note. At any stage, you can also check the child's entitlements. On the child's profile, there's a quick link at the top you can click to see their entitlements for just that one child, or you can run it from here. And essentially what happens is you'll get a screen that looks like this, and it will tell you the child. So it'll tell you the date, first of all, the child's percentage, right? The child's hours. If they have any other hours at another center, it will be here as well. So they might have 100 hours as a total, but at this particular service, they only have 60 hours. So they have 40 at the other one. You'll see that there. If they have any increased percentages, if they reach their cap, it will say yes or no. What their absence count is at that particular point in time, what their withholding percentage is, and if they're exempt for the preschool funding. So that's all there, and you can see that at any given stage. Okay, now that's obviously going to affect the CCS amount that we're getting. So keep that in mind, that just because things in entitlements was a certain way one day, it doesn't mean they don't change. So feel free to always look at that as well. Okay. Moving forward from that, submitting our sessions. This is a common one, guys. Sometimes sessions don't get submitted for whatever reason, and there's different reasons that they don't get submitted. Like I said, we might do another training in the future about CCS components and errors and whatnot. So that might be something we'll talk about. But note that there might be children that don't get submitted. Depending if you're submitting your sessions automatically or manually, you'll get an email if you're doing automatically to tell you that there were errors. If you're doing it manually, we always recommend jump onto your weekly attendance fee screen. Okay. Did I put that in here? Oh yeah, I said it before. So jump on your weekly attendance fee screen and run report. Okay. It will show you. So you can run a report with just errors only. Okay. Or you can run a report with all your children. If you do all your children, you'll be able to see ticks and crosses to show which children have and have not been submitted. Okay. So you can clearly see if a child hasn't been submitted, you can try and push them through. Now, what's going to happen is they'll appear like this. There'll be an X next to their name, and there'll be a little blue icon here. That blue icon allows them to be submitted again. And if you push it and there's an error, read the error, work out what it is, have a look at our trainings as well to see if our error is already discussed and what you need to do. If not, give us a call to try and work it out. But essentially, if a child's not submitted for CCS, obviously they're not going to get any payments. So that's one thing to note as well. So a lot of times when we get an issue down here, it's actually because of a break somewhere along the chain further up. It's not something that happened just down here. Okay, so I just want you guys to get into the habit of focusing on these things and looking at each one of these individually for each case, because that's what we do in support anyway. When you guys call us, we have no idea about your accounts and whatnot, so we just look at all these different things. And like I said before, a lot of the times it's just like it actually just looks like this. Like we'll go in, we'll look at a family transaction, for example, where you tell us which one, and we're in there. Okay, that's not a good one. And then what we'll do is we'll open up the attendances, for example. We'll open up old invoices. We'll open up all these other things in different tabs. We'll go and check their entitlements at that particular stage. We'll check their sessions, we'll check their session subsidies. We'll have all these things because what we're trying to do is work out what's the issue this time, right? You might have two issues on the same day, different reasons. So you need to try and identify what it is. And it's not as easy as just looking at one place and it being there because, like I said, every situation is different. Okay, so it's about using that sort of troubleshooting, knowledge that you've gained through this webinar, hopefully that allows you to work it out. Okay, and once again, when you get stuck, use our support. We have a fantastic support team here to help you. So if you can't work it out on your own, give us a call. But we want to try and get you guys to the stage where you can start to troubleshoot these on your own, especially when they're like common ones. And then when they're not common, you give us a call and we help you, right? We don't mind helping. That's not a problem. It's not about you guys not using us at all, or we don't want to talk to you or something like that. No, 100% not. It's just about educating you so you don't have to make the call, so you can work out what it is. So you can try and run a report or two to see if you can work it out. All right. So that's what this whole what I call CCS chain is designed to do. Okay. Next, so we've submitted our sessions on a Monday generally, because we submit them on the weekend or a Friday if it's automatic. What happens is we get our payments. Now, one thing you want to note about payments is you want to come here to CCS payments and you want to run that report. Okay. Owner is constantly checking centers to see if their payments have gone through. Now, we do that sporadically. On Monday, it's more frequent. I think it's few hourly, like 2-3 hours at a time, right? But what might happen is we might check at 9 o'clock and your payment's clear at 9:30. So we've missed it on that particular check. So we have to wait another 2-3 hours to see if they've cleared. Okay. Now, if that process like happens in that particular case, when we check for the payments, what we're looking for is to make sure that they've cleared. Okay. So we want to see payments that look like this. Okay, so you'll run your report. Now, let's even go back one step. When running the report, and this is important, making sure that after you run a report, you'll have a report date here. Okay, oops. You'll have the report date in this column. And one thing to note is about the payment report is the way you filter the dates is a little bit different. So I'll just quickly go through that. You need to run the dates that the payment is made, not the week the payment is made for. So in my particular case, the payment is made for the 29th, but the payment will be made the following week. So I don't even know what I just did. So if you see my calendar here, that was March. So let's go back to March. Or not, but you get my idea. Oh, is that what it is? Okay, never mind. I don't know how to do that. I'm using a different computer, so I don't know the passwords. But basically, let's say the 11th of April. If I want to see the 11th of April payments, I run the report for the 18th, the week of the 18th, okay? Another thing with running your payments is you cannot select a future date. So if today's Wednesday, I run it from Monday to Wednesday, and it'll pick up all the payments. And obviously, the payments have clearing numbers that link up with your bank accounts and whatnot, okay? So that's all good there. Make sure you run the correct report is the first thing. And make sure the status is clear, okay? If it's open, it means you need to wait a little bit longer and it will clear. The annoying thing, or the question mark ambiguous thing about this is we don't know when they're going to clear. Every center is different. For the same center, each week might be different. All we know is we can pull up the report and see if it's cleared or not, okay? So if you want to do that by yourself, I highly recommend it. Just go to your CCS payments on a Monday, for example, and check your report is cleared before you generate invoices. And that will pull through all those payments onto the accounts, okay? And we're getting to there now. Once you've done all that, the payment report basically has the total amount that that a payment is due for, like a CCS payment which is coming your way. So for this particular child, I'll be receiving $239.82. If you want to see the breakdown of that payment, go to the session subsidies. So I don't remember if I talked about it, but payments is under CCS payments and session subsidy is just above it. And the thing with the session subsidy is it takes the payment and it breaks it down on an individual day-by-day basis, and it's based on accurate information, okay? I'll get to the exhaustion stuff in a second, but you'll be able to see the date the payment was made, the fee that the center charged, the amount of hours a child was in care, the entitlement amount paid, the total amount, okay? How many hours was paid for, and the individual day-by-day breakdown to make up this payment here. Oops, that was bad. Try again. That payment there, okay, is basically based on all these payments here added up, okay? So you can clearly see the day by day. Now, in that note, the CCS session, the session subsidy report is fantastic in showing you why a payment may not be complete or the total amount and the reason behind it. So many different reasons. I'm only going to focus on a few. Let me just see what I've got here. So firstly, who got paid? Okay, let's see if I've got that. Give me a sec, guys. Perfect. The CCS session subsidy report will show you the CCS amount and then the recipient, okay? When the amount is when the recipient, sorry, is a service, that means the center is going to get paid that amount. However, when the recipient says individual, pardon me, give me a sec. Sorry, guys, I apologize. I just wanted to come in and get this done. When the recipient is an individual, it means the parent actually got paid that amount. So from a billing point of view, we still need to bill the family for the amount that we did not receive. Okay, they receive the CCS on their end, so they use that to offset their total. But if in this particular case, in the example you can see on screen, the family only got a portion of it, right? However, if they got the full amount and the service got nothing, we would need to bill them the full amount. Okay, so that's very important. So the CCS session subsidy shows who got paid. And I'm not sure exactly how they calculate who's getting the payment, but CCS do have cases where when they backdate, if it's over a certain period of time, they backdate it straight to the family. Also, I'm pretty sure the individual can somehow, through MyGov, actually nominate that the payments go to them. Okay, so there is a lot of reasoning behind payments going to parents. So check the CCS session subsidy. Okay, my personal report that I go to straight away when I get these kind of questions is the session subsidy, because it shows me, first of all, if nothing appears, that means there was no payment. And then I go down the chain to find out why there was no payment. But if something appears, it shows me the exact breakdown. Who received the payment? Was there any reason that not a full amount was paid? For example, in this case, family exhausts their hours. So one thing I may not have mentioned is on the weekly, or let me see if my screenshot captures it, but I don't think it does. No. Okay, on the weekly attendance fee screen, on the right-hand side here, just next to the children's name, is a column which is about hours. So what you'll be able to see is if I run this, what happens? No, you'll be able to see the total hours a child is in care for that week, as well as the total hours that they actually are subsidized for. And owner will actually pull it up in red if the hours in care is more than their actual subsidized hours, just to bring it to your attention that this family might go over their hours. Okay, keep in mind it does it on a week-to-week basis, and CCS is based off a fortnight, so you need to look at 2 weeks to get the full picture. Okay, but yeah, basically exhaustion occurs basically from it could be from a CCS point of view in terms of hours, or like we said before, PA entitlements, it could be exhaustion of the daily cap rate. So we assume that we're going to get $14 per hour, but they're only capping us at $12.20, so we're only receiving that amount at our percentage. Okay, so and our withholding as well. So that's another thing to consider. And lastly, like I said before, reasoning behind payments. Sometimes different payments have different reasons behind them, and you'll be able to see that clearly here with a little explanation. So in this case, activity test results exhausted. In this case, the recipient was individual. You might see things like sessions withdrawn, sessions updated, session of care $0, that kind of stuff. So what about the ones where if the child's absent for their first 3 days prior to a physical attendance, or absent at the last days, it'll show here as well. Absence prior to first physical attendance, I don't remember what it is at the end of the period, but there is a wording for it, like absence, not prior, but I can't think of the words on top of my head, but you get what I mean, right? There will be a reasoning to say that the last few attendances were absences, hence no CCS paid. Hence, parent has to pay full fees for those days. Okay, so that all does come in there as well. If absences are exceeded, it might come up there as well. But there are many different reasons. I can't think of all of them at the top of my head. But basically, use that report. It does help out a lot. Okay, so if you want my number one go-to, I say go from the family transaction screen. And I don't have it here because we don't have CCS, but essentially, which one was I using? Maybe under the attendances, you'll have a green line of text, and that little person on the CCS subsidy will take you straight to the CCS subsidy report. Okay, or just go CCS session subsidy, find the date range, find the child. Okay, use this report. Oh, it has it here. It has all the headings, so it does show you a lot of different reasons why CCS might be reduced or zero. Okay, so it's probably my favorite one to go to, and then if that has everything appearing correct, then I go down the rabbit hole. Okay, and then once we've done all this stuff, basically, say for example, we've loaded up payment reports, we check out session subsidy, whatever, it all looks good. A few things we can do to actually get it to appear on the account. Once you load our payment report, one thing to note is the CCS amount just goes to the family account. It doesn't show on the statements or invoices just yet. All you need to do is balance your account, okay? Now, when you balance your account, when you run your invoices, it automatically will balance your accounts, okay? But you can also manually balance your accounts. And what balancing your accounts means, pull through any CCS payments, any changes in attendances, any updates in payments, and show me the correct or the up-to-date balance at this particular point in time, okay? So to balance all your accounts, just go to the family account section and balance them at the top here, okay? It will show you what you're previously balanced to. So if you don't want to change that, you just balance to the same date, for example, 19th of April, okay? Update family account balances and it'll update those. Or if you want to generate like invoices for a new period or whatever, you can move it to the next, let's say you want to see what it looks like before generating invoices. You can go to the 2nd of April, for example, update the family account balances, and you'll be able to see that there as well. And what this does in the background is it pulls through any CCS payments, updates and payments made, and also any changes in attendances. And when you're doing balancing in terms of attendances, it's looking at the last 8 weeks, okay? So any changes in the last 8 weeks, it'll pull through. Now, really quickly on this note, if you generate an invoice, it will automatically balance your accounts, okay? So when I generate an invoice under invoices and payments for the 12th of April to the 18th of April. Sorry, give me 1 sec because it's important. We'll go back. When balancing accounts, I will get back to the invoices stuff. Try and balance it till Monday, the beginning of the period, or a Sunday, the end of the period. So the difference is if I balance to the 11th of April, I'll see all the attendances up until then. Okay, if I balance to the 12th of April, I will not see any attendances for that week. Again, only see the balances up until the 11th. So essentially, balancing to the 12th or the 11th will show me pretty much the same data. If I want to see the attendances for that week, balance it to the end of the week, either Sunday or the following Monday. Okay, and you'll be able to see all the attendances because when you balance to the 12th, it stops the attendances up until that point in time. Okay, it'll still show confirmed CCS and whatnot. If there has been any confirmed payments after this period, it will show that because it needs to. But from an attendances point of view, it will not show. Okay, so keep that in mind. Back to what we were saying before with the invoices. So when you generate your invoices from the 12th to the 18th, and this is someone was asking before about automations and stuff like that. This is one of the things that we've actually updated from, let's say, a month or two ago, right? Where you had to go and manually balance your accounts. You don't have to do that anymore. The system's automatically balancing your accounts for you. So what it's doing is it's balancing your accounts to the 4th of the 12th, the 12th of April, to work out what your carryover balances are, because we want to know, before I even generate this invoice, what's the balance of this family, okay? Pull that through. And then it balances your accounts again to the end of the period so that your invoices and your statements all take it up to the same period of time, okay? Awesome. One thing I want to note is on that, because it is important, and this is why we haven't moved to statements yet, right? It's something that we're working on in the background. But as of right now, the recording of this training, when you generate your invoices, it takes into consideration, and especially for people billing in advance, when you're estimating the CCS on an invoice, it takes into consideration every exhaustion possible in terms of hours, in terms of daily caps, etc. At the moment, when you're looking at your statement, these CCS estimates in orange are not taking into consideration exhaustion. Okay, that's important because that might be a reason why one like the same family, the invoice and the transaction might not match up. It might be because of exhaustion. Okay, so I wanted to make that point clear, and these are the reasons why we still haven't moved over, because it's something we're still working on. Okay, I'm sure the team will work it out. It's just more so about them working out from a developmental point of view and then being able to release all those changes so we can all enjoy them. Awesome. And I think that's pretty much it. So when you generate your invoices, you balance your accounts or run your invoices, and it should pull through the CCS, okay? And I'm hoping by this visual representation here, you can clearly see that, for example, if no payment was loaded or the payment was loaded too early or whatnot, why we didn't get CCS on the account. If the entitlements changed, why the CCS was different on the account. If they disputed it, why there was no CCS on the account. If we forgot to submit the session or for whatever reason the session actually had an error, why there was no CCS on the account, okay? So I hope that starts to make sense. Really quickly, does that make sense to people? Like, is that actually helping people kind of understand things that maybe before this tutorial and training that you may not have been aware of. Let me know in the chat box if that actually made a lot of sense, as well as if you have further questions, because I did spend a lot of time on it because it's very important, because it does come up a lot. And because, like I said, every situation is different. Okay, so let me know from feedback point of view if that helped out, if that made sense, or if you still have any questions, what that may be. Awesome. I'm just gonna keep going because we're at the 1 hour mark, but we did have some, technical difficulties, and also I'm happy to stay a little bit longer just because this is very important. Okay. Oops, I don't know what I did. I do this every time. I touch something and it moves. Okay. One important thing with invoices, because they're static, if a change occurs after an invoice has been generated, and a change might be extra bookings picked up, payments been made through the app or to your bank account or whatnot, make sure you update those on the family transaction screens. So if it's an attendance point of view, rebatch the family transaction. And one thing I forgot to mention, when balancing your accounts on this level, you're balancing all accounts. If you want to balance just one account, you can do it by the family transaction screen. You can look at one family transaction here, for example, the Adams, scroll to the bottom, and you can balance just that one account. Okay, you can rebatch the CCS, or you can rebatch the attendances, or both. Just do one at a time. And what that will do is, if there was a payment that was made prior to when we last balanced the accounts, okay, and we keep an audit. So this account was last balanced on the 29th of April at 1:58 p.m. It was balanced to the 2nd of May, and there's a total of 1,646 that was owing at that time. Okay, let's say there was some sort of information that came in after the fact. We can rebalance the account to make sure it's all correct. Okay, keep in mind when you generate invoices, it does it for you anyway. It's more so if you add in a payment, for example, and you need to update it, or attendance has changed. So, for example, this is a good one. Here I have 2 attendances and it's 220. But we realized, what week was that? 19. But we realized that this casual booking should not have occurred. Okay, so now we delete an attendance, or we pick up an attendance or whatnot. Okay, it's not automatically reflected in the sense that when it last balanced, it had a certain amount of details, right? So you can balance your accounts and it'll pick up all those changes. So what do we balance to? 2nd of May, rebatch the attendances, and you'll see clearly that that's taken into consideration there. So those kind of things after you generate invoices are important. If that happens, all you do is delete the invoice and regenerate it. Okay, this is because an invoice is static, and that's why we're looking to move away from it. But because we're using that system right now, I just wanted to make that crystal clear. Any changes that happen after an invoice is generated, they will either one of two things, either delete and regenerate. Okay, if you've already taken a payment, or if you don't want to delete the invoice for whatever reason, all those changes will be reflected on the next invoice as a carryover balance. Okay, so you can start to see how carryover balances occur if we don't keep our invoices up to date or whatever, right? No right or wrong way, by the way, because the family will still end up paying or getting that money back. It's just more so might happen next invoice period rather than this invoice period. That's all. Okay. Deleting invoices. So we can delete invoices by clicking this little button here on the right hand side. For that card or invoice, I don't like it, it's not right, whatever. I need to delete and regenerate. So I just delete it and I can regenerate it, right? One thing to note about invoices is if that invoice, oops, someone's been testing here. Oh no. I think I deleted the only invoice with an actual proper reference period. Here we go. If a family has an invoice generated for a particular period in time, you won't be able to regenerate that invoice for that same family for that time. Okay, you will need to delete it and regenerate it, or if a payment's gone through, you will need to wait until the next invoice period has gone in. Okay, you won't be able to delete an invoice that has a payment made to it. Awesome. Another fun fact, because people do ask us, if you have these invoices auto-generated by the system, so maybe it's a new family or an old family and an invoice was generated at $0 balance, you can actually delete it by opening it up the invoice, going to the bottom and reverting it. Okay, who is it? Constable. And then what will happen is, because this hasn't been refreshed, it still shows like that. But as soon as you refresh your attendances by clicking Get Invoices, you'll be able to see the constable one here now has an X on the right. So I can actually delete that as well. Awesome. Now, what about if we've generated a whole batch of invoices, but there was no CCS? We've realized after the fact we didn't jump on the training. So now, from now on, we will do everything that we talked about in the training, but we've already generated them. There was no CCS. Instead of having to delete each one, is there a faster way? Yes, there is, but be careful because it's either all or nothing. Okay, so you can either delete all the invoices with a particular reference, or you just delete them individual. Okay, you can't select 6 of them and delete 6. You just have the 6 off this side. Okay, what you do, you can copy this as what we call the reference. Okay, now reference can be text as well. That's fine as long as these characters here match with what we're going to put into the delete invoices section. That's fine. You highlight this, copy it here, and then scroll down to the bottom. Where's the scroll bar? Oh, no. There we go. Thank goodness. And then you just paste it here, okay? And you delete invoices. And, oh, you know what? Let's just delete these. Let's delete. Should I delete April or should I delete? Let's delete these. Okay, Jan 18 to Jan 24, okay? So I've decided to delete those. What it will do, like I said before, it will actually delete every single invoice that had Jan 18 or Jan 24, okay? Now, if I scroll down straight away, it won't take effect because I still have the old invoices loaded, but I just want to show you the here. However, if I don't know where the side scroll thing is. If I click get invoices and reloads them, now they're all gone. Watch. February, and then they're all gone here. I think this might have had, I think the others were like 18 to 25. No, 18 to 24. Oh, these didn't delete, sorry, because it's completed. There was an actual payment that was made. So they won't be deleted, okay? If an actual payment has gone through on them. And yeah, that's how you bulk delete your invoices. I think I'm coming to the end of my thing. So if you guys want to start asking questions, feel free to. Cool, filtering invoices. I added a few things here. I'm not sure if I'm going to talk about all of them, but I'll try. Really quickly, filtering invoices. So if you run a really big date range, all these totals up here are going to reflect every single invoice that you can see right now. To filter them further, use that reference again. So if you just want to look at April 5 invoices to see how much is due for April 5, and paste it up here, the reference text. Anytime you copy paste, make sure all the extra spaces are gone, and run that. And it'll show you just for April 5 to, okay, we've got big invoices, April 5 to April 11, the credits, the paid, the outstanding, and the total, okay, just for that period there. Or you can change your date range here, keeping in mind that your date range works off your actual generated date, not your reference, okay? Important to note, generated date. So when I generated these on the 9th of April, if I change this to anything after the 9th of April, I won't be able to see them anymore. They're all gone, okay? Doesn't matter that I generated them for a different period of time. It just matters that I generated them for this year. Even if this invoice said 31st of May, even though that date is after this range here, it'll still disappear because it just goes off the date range. So you can minimize your date range here and run filters. You can also filter by families or tags as well, okay? Tags is something I want to touch on, but I think the rest is pretty good. Adding extra charges and payments to accounts. I have talked about it a lot, so I'm just going to briefly talk about it. Go to family transactions. If you haven't loaded a statement, it will only have the multiple section. However, if you do load a statement, you can add a transaction just for that statement only. It'll be a debit is a charge or a credit is a payment. The amount, when it's a credit, you can also choose the type it is, and that helps with reporting and reconciliation reports. And basically, you put in a description and you add it in. Make sure your descriptions are transparent because the parents can see them as well. And then basically that's it. I didn't choose an amount and whatnot. Okay, so that's all good. And last thing, because it does help with some people, is filtering your accounts by tags. Now, reasons you might want to do this is, especially because we don't have the automation set just yet, you might have families still paying you on weekly, fortnightly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. So you can actually create the tags. You can create, for example, a Monday, if I can spell, Monday and then weekly, for example, tag. And then you can also have Monday fortnightly, okay? However you guys are organizing invoices, that's fine. What you'll do is you'll go to your account screen, click on that family, and just under where you've linked the children and carers, you can actually add those tags. So Monday fortnightly, for example. And what that means is from now on, you can use those tags to do different things. Number one, as we were talking about 2 seconds ago, you can add multiple transactions. And instead of having to choose different families, you can just do anyone with this tag will get this transaction applied to their account, whether it's a credit or a debit. You could do QKFS families, add in a credit. You could do excursion families, I don't know, nappy charges, whatever the case may be, excursions, other select families from up here, or tags as well, okay? Invoices, same thing. We generally do all families, but if you're going to just generate different periods of time, you might have a weekly invoice and a fortnightly invoice. All you do is you do your weekly dates here and run your weekly tag, okay? So let's say I had a weekly invoice, okay? So my week might be 12 to 18, and I generate that invoice based off the weeks, okay? I might then have a fortnight tag, and so I'll do 12 to 25, okay? Bill. Now, this is just based off invoices and the period that we're invoicing them for. If they pay on different weeks or different days, you can then use those tags for payment purposes. So I can run my Monday weeklies, for example, get invoices. It's only going to show any family with Monday weekly. I don't know, did I say something wrong? I'm not sure what's happening, but basically we'll only show Monday weekly, which it should. Weekly invoice would work. There you go, weekly invoices. And then with the weekly invoices, when you bill, you just hit the debit all outstanding invoices, and it bills those families with that tag, okay? Disregard what's happening here because our backend just gets played around with a lot. The data doesn't all link up. It's like, test center. So it might not work exactly as I need it here, but on your system it will work. And then what you'll do is you run the next tag. For example, you might take weekly and fortnight A families today and weekly fortnight B families next week, okay? So you'll run weekly, debit all. Then you run fortnightly. You run weekly. This is very important. You click get invoices because you need to make sure you load those invoices only. And then you click debit all. And then you do your fortnightly, for example, get invoices, and then you click debit all as well. Okay. One thing when it comes to billing is this debit all will change to this orange like in debit queue sort of button, but it can still be pressed even after the first time. Okay. And that's basically how you can use tags to create what you would with like automation billing, just more on a bulk setting where you manually click the bidding button. Okay. And I know I've talked a lot, and I know I might have gone through a few things quickly, but that sums up everything I kind of want to talk to you about. So yeah, awesome. Thank you guys for joining first of all, and jumping on. So I've done a lot of the talking now. I know sometimes people are scared and whatnot, but I tell you, don't be scared and use this opportunity. I'm happy to. I know I've gone a bit over time, over the hour. That's fine. If no one wants to ask a question, that's fine. We can wrap it up. But if you do have any pressing questions, just ask them. First of all, because these are recorded, it will help a lot of people down the track. But even just right now, for the people that are on right now, your question might help someone else. Okay. So feel free to use the chat box to firstly provide any feedback on how you found the training. Secondly, let me know if you have any questions. And yeah, basically that's it. In case anyone wants to jump off, just want to say thank you so much for joining. I hope this has been valuable in the sense that I hope it's actually taught you something that you may not have known, or if you have known it, at least it's reiterated the process, I guess. And I just really hope it's basically going to help you guys with your troubleshooting, right? Of course, well, if you can't work it out yourselves, do give us a call. Don't, like I say, don't suffer in silence. because you have such a fantastic support network that you can utilize, okay? So utilize it as much as you need. Okay, good question, young explorers. It's something I actually didn't touch on. One thing to do with the invoices and payments, okay? So if you generate an invoice, let's say for example, Adams, I generate $9.90. When you put in the payments, you're putting them on the statement, okay? It's not going to update this balance. So let's say for example, Adams pays me $100 on that $9.90. Oh, I don't know if I can regenerate. I might get stuck in the generating part, but I'll just show you the process, right? $9.90 here. Family transactions, they pay me $100, so I'm going to add that in as a credit. Okay, so we all know that $9.90 minus 100 is $8.90, right? But let's say, for example, spelling. Let's say, for example, they've paid it in, they bank transferred or whatever, so I added in like this, right? These little amounts here are going to actually update. Oh, where'd it go? Are going to update this invoice here, okay? So no matter how many times I refresh this, it's not going to change. Does removing invoices or removes? Okay, so the question is, if I remove this invoice, does it remove the small amounts paid? The answer is no, okay? Because you put all the little payments here on the family transaction, it does not, okay? And what it also means is, and I think it's going to stop me, but if I delete this invoice, 5 to 11, and then I regenerated it, oh, which family was it? C something? No. I don't even remember which family I used. Apologies, guys. Good work, Peter. Adams. If I generate the invoice again, which I don't think it will let me because of the demo site, but I'm going to try anyway. It's going to crash. Yep. What will happen? Oh, yeah. So, yeah, basically, let me. So when I generate the invoice again, it will say $8.90. Okay, awesome. The question though is, what if we're putting the payments on the invoices? Now, what we will say is, don't do that because of that sort of thing. If you have a system where you're editing invoices, it's not recommended. Okay, I just want to make it clear that we don't recommend editing invoices. It was something that was created ages and ages ago. That was working. That had like some sort of issues that we had to mix and match. Right. We actually removed the editing of invoices, but some people are still using it, so that's why it's still there. Highly recommend adding the transactions and then deleting and regenerating the invoice, because you saw right now that that $8.90 will just come up, right? And it will still hold all those $100 payments. But if you are editing the invoice and you delete it, it will remove all those little amounts, because the way it works is when you edit the invoice, you put in a credit, for example, of $100. That credit of $100 also goes on the statement, right? When you delete the invoice, there goes that $100. There goes that whole, every single line by line. Okay, so it's not recommended. Keeping in mind that because we are moving away from invoices, we aren't focusing on making any more changes to this screen. There are little things that could be improved here, there, the other, right? But because, like I said, we're moving away from it, we're really just focusing on statements and things that we use right now that we're also going to use later. We're fixing, like balancing your accounts faster, generating invoices, doing things in the background so you don't have to do them manually. Sorry for that. All that sort of stuff we are working on. But little things like editing invoices and whatnot, it's going to go very soon. So if you're still using it, it's fine if you have a system. But like I said, not our number one recommendation, only because once you delete the invoice, it links up there. And also the link between invoice and family transaction. It's a bit tricky to do per se. But I hope that answers your question, because it sounds like you guys are using it. Yeah, delete invoices if you have it. Sorry, if you have edited an invoice, when you delete it, it will remove it from the statement. However, if you put the individual line items on the statement itself, when you delete the invoice, it will not remove them. And the reason we say put it on the statement, delete the invoice, regenerate, is because the statement still has the balance. It still keeps all that information. So when you regenerate it, it just picks up the new balance. That's all. Great question, though. Any other questions, guys? For anyone that's still on, feel free to let me know how you found this, because there was something I was like really struggling with experimenting. The CCS chain, did it make a lot of sense? Was it hard to follow? CCS chain, love it or hate it? I don't know. Just let me know. I'm just curious to see. It's one of those things, because there's so many different scenarios. We always have that battle between us internally, like in our support team. How do we display this information? It's very difficult because there's so many different things that we need to like take into consideration to come up with a step-by-step guide. And so I just thought maybe by putting the X here and showing where the break, I think of it like a continuous chain or like a pipe. Imagine water flowing through it. So what I'm thinking is, like, if the water flows through it, if someone steps on the hose or whatever here, the water won't flow through. That's the kind of idea I was hoping to, reiterate. Awesome. So it sounds like some people are loving it, so that's great. Yeah, basically, like I said before, for future tutorials, because we're going to start segmenting them and just focusing on one particular topic. Maybe we won't go as long as this one, but this is a very big topic, so I wanted to. Let us know any topic ideas you want. Send them to support, or send them to support email. Let us know kind of things that how can we get this done? Or you would have had an email sent to you as well from our social chains saying basically like a poll asking for what questions, what topics you would like. So if you have that email, feel free to reply to it as well. Awesome. Sounds like the questions are dying off now. So I'll give it another 1 or 2 minutes. I'll turn off the recording. So thanks so much officially for joining. I really hope this has been fantastic and has helped you guys out. I apologize once again for my cold and my non-sexy voice. Come on next week and hopefully my sexy voice is back, okay? But essentially, thank you so much. Hope it's been valuable. Anything you need to like chase up further from this, feel free to use the information provided, as well as give our support center a call or email, and we'll be able to help you. And like I said, these trainings are recorded, and they also, we have a team going through them and breaking them up into segments. So we will be getting all of those links for you to revisit this information accessible. We're still playing around with how we're going to do it. YouTube videos, how's it going to tie into our already written tutorials? Once we sort all that out, links and stuff will be provided, okay? Awesome.